Sometimes, if you want to go all the way to the top of a certain sport or even just a certain profession, you may want to get all the way to the top and see what is waiting for you there. But sometimes you may just be satisfied with staying at a lower level. Sometimes you may be content with maybe the pay or maybe the competition, whatever it is, on a lower level, and you may just stay there for your entire career or just life as a employee or maybe become an employer, who knows. That is the story of Frank Kimmel. Mr. Francis James Kimmel was born April 30th, 1962 in Clarksville, Indiana to a racing family. His father, Bill Kimmel, won an ARCA race back in 1979 and barely even made any starts. And early on in his career, he made his first career start only at the age of 15. So it took him quite a while before he started driving cars in a racing way, because some of the drivers now, they're starting like in their toddler age, like 4 or 5 years old. After driving street stocks at the age of 15, he would move to late models 7 years later after becoming a young adult, and eventually won 3 championships racing late models. And entering in 1990, he decided that he wanted to move up the ranks to another organization that wasn't actually owned by NASCAR at the time, ARCA. At this time, ARCA was an independent series and would remain an independent series for a long time. In fact, as we know now, they would be bought out by NASCAR officially and become a NASCAR-sanctioned series in 2018. But lots of drivers ran through ARCA if they wanted to move to the top 3 series. But at the time in 1990, it was only the top 2 series because the truck series had yet to exist. In 1990, now that he had a family and his son was just born, Frank Kimmel made the move to the ARCA series, driving for Wallace Racing. And I'm pretty sure that doesn't have anything to do with the 3 Wallace brothers we know now in NASCAR: Rusty, Mike, and Kenny. And he made his debut at Toledo. In 2 starts that year, he failed to finish any of them. His debut at Toledo saw him crash out, and at Delaware, he had a pump issue. But that was enough to bring him along for the 1991 season, where he continued to make select starts. And in 5 races, he did not disappoint, scoring 4 top 10s with the best finish of fourth in the first Toledo race. And only 1 race that year did he fail to finish. And this was enough. Wallace Racing liked what they saw in this young Frank Kimmel and signed him to drive the full 1992 season with them in their number '02 Pontiac, where in that season he had a respectable campaign. In all 21 races, he had no wins, but he did get 6 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and an average finish of 13.2, which isn't top mark for ARCA standards at the time, but finishing fifth in points was good. He won Rookie of the Year with 48 laps led, and he ran at the finish in 18 races. A pretty respectable season. If he could just get moving in the ARCA series a little bit, maybe he could actually move up into the top series of NASCAR. For 1993, Frank Kimmel would move to Shirley Racing to drive the same number 02 truck for the 1993 season. There's not a lot of info for ARCA in the 90s, not a lot of articles, so I don't know if they had just bought out Wallace Racing, but Kimmel was driving there for the full 1993 season. And unfortunately, it seemed like a bit of a regression, as in those 19 races, he had 7 top 5s and 9 top 10s, and finished fifth in points again. And although his average finish improved to an 11.8, it still felt like a bit of a regression. Fun fact, that year finishing fifth in points was 1 spot below Jeremy Mayfield, a future 5-time Cup Series winner and the most sabotaged driver in NASCAR history. Check that video out, by the way. In 1994 is when Frank Kimmel decided that he was going to do good in ARCA. He was finally able not only to finish higher than fifth in the standings, but he even challenged for the championship after getting a grand total of 10 top 5s and 15 top 10s. I say challenge for the championship because he finished second in points, but he was nearly 600 points behind champion Bobby Boucher. But for Frank Kimmel, another milestone was achieved as he was able to get his first career win in the 6th race of the 1994 season at Toledo. So this had some upside, and entering 1995, it looked like now was the way to now is the time to start stepping up. For the 95 season remaining at Shirley, in driving multiple manufacturers for them, he did not score a win, unfortunately. He actually regressed, scoring 7 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and falling down again to 5th in the points with an average finish of 12.6, a regression from the previous year where he scored an 8.8 average finish. But Kimmel would make his first Truck Series start as the Truck Series came into existence in 1995, driving in a single race for AAG Racing where he would finish 23rd at the Louisville Motor Speedway in Louisville, Kentucky. And in 1996, though, was Kimmel's chance once again. In 96, Kimmel would move up to the Truck Series, driving for Blacktip Racing on a part-time schedule across the season, and would reduce his schedule in ARCA, only limiting himself to 15 races for new team owner Steve Rauch, driving in their 02 and 46 cars. Again, I'm not sure if they bought out Now Shirley Racing. Kimmel's new foray into the Truck Series would see him actually perform pretty well, scoring a ninth place finish for a top 10 in the season opening race at Homestead. And across the 4 races that season, he followed up with failing to finish his second race at Heartland Park Topeka Road Course, and then finished 12th at Louisville and 12th at the Nashville Fairgrounds before unfortunately failing to qualify for the season finale at Las Vegas. But in ARCA's where he realized that he started to shine, as although he did not compete in 10 of the 25 races that season, he still managed an 8th place points finish. Why? An average finish of 8th, leading 341 laps, getting a pole, his first pole was in 1994. He scored 3 wins, 10 top 5s, and 12 top 10s. That is a pretty strong season. What would happen in 1997? In 97, he would reduce his schedule in the Truck Series, driving for Blacktip continuously, but then also driving for Wegner Motorsports. I don't know who these teams are. But in 97, he would now drive the 46 car, the Chevy and Pontiac, full-time for Steve Rauch, where in that season he would continue to show his consistent ways. He was a consistent top 5 threat in majority of the races, and that year challenged for the championship once again with 1 win, 13 top 5s, 18 top 10s, a pole, and an average finish of 8.4, along with finishing second in the standings for the second time in his career. Although he had a pretty big margin, finishing 340 points behind champion Tim Steele, who had won 12 races that year. It was an immensely successful season. In the Truck Series, he would fail to qualify for 2 races, and in the only race he made for Wegner Motorsports in the season finale at Las Vegas, he failed to finish and finished 33rd in the final order. But in 1998 was when Frank Kimmel's ARCA career decided to take off. Larry Clement was a team owner in ARCA that had been running in the ARCA series since 1993. The team had 4 career wins to their name, all coming with driver Bob Hill, who had a best points finish of 4th in the championship in 1995. But in 1997, they took a year off, not competing in a single race that season. But heading into 1998, Larry Clement, I'm assuming, would buy out Steve Rauch. I can't find any articles anywhere. And the 46 car would now become a staple for Larry Clement. And seeing how Frank Kimmel performed in the past 2 ARCA seasons, especially 1996 where he drove in 15 of the 25 races, he retained Frank Kimmel. And right away, Kimmel would show his prowess, as this was now top-tier equipment in ARCA. Finishing 6th at Daytona looked like a great thing, but it only got better. 3rd at Atlanta, and he would go on to win at Salem, win at Charlotte. He would go on to win at Michigan later on after failing to finish Memphis, and his wins continued to rack up, and the championship was basically non-existent. Frank Kimmel ran away with the championship by 700 points over runner-up Mark Gibson with some crazy stats. 9 wins, 16 top 5s, 19 top 10s, 3 poles. He had led nearly 900 laps and had an average finish of 5.7. What an immensely successful season for Frank Kimmel. He had finally won his first career championship, and was he going to move up now was the real question. In the Truck Series in 1998, he once again only made 1 start. at Homestead for Black Tip Racing in their double zero truck, where he would finish 16th at Homestead. Would he move up, or would he be a driver that would run in ARCA? Would he be content running in this lower series while people would try to drive to the top echelon of American motorsport stock car racing? In 1999, he stayed with the team, but unfortunately, he had an inconsistent season. He would go on to only score 3 wins, down from the 9 the previous year, 12 top 5s, 14 top 10s, a pole. He only led 412 laps and had an average finish of 9.7. Although he was quote unquote in the championship fight, apparently, he was not close to the championship at all, as unfortunately he failed to win the championship and defend his title, as he finished second in points, basically 700 points behind champion Bill Baird. Baird would basically despawn from ARCA and NASCAR for the rest of his career outside of a single ARCA win in 2004. But for Kimmel, this was a heartbreaking loss after previously winning the ARCA championship the year before. Heading into the 2000 season, it wasn't looking like Frank Kimmel was going to move up into the top tiers of NASCAR racing. In 1999, he only attempted one Truck Series race for the Black Tip Racing organization, where he failed to qualify again at Louisville Motor Speedway late in the year. And in 2000, it looked like Kimmel might be falling off in ARCA. He wanted to be content driving in this series, but in the first 4 races, he failed to finish 2 of them and had one finish better than 18th, which was a second place finish at Salem. But he was able to quickly gather his season back together, winning the following 2 races and becoming consistent like he had been in years past, easily able to lock up the championship with not really so much ease. He had to hold off a challenge from Bob Strait, who had won a grand total of 1 race, the season finale. But Kimmel was able to rack up his second championship in 3 seasons with 6 wins, 11 top 5s, 13 top 10s, 3 poles, 964 laps led, a career best, and an average finish of 8.8. Again, it wasn't as successful as his first championship in 1998, but it was still strong nonetheless. And heading into 2001 at the age of 39, I think it was pretty much apparent to everybody that Frank Kimmel was going to be a driver that was going to be here to stay. In 2000, he didn't even bother to make a single truck race, and the only thing he had heading into the 2001 season that was more than Truck Series experience was a single Cup Series start that I had failed to mention before, coming in 1998 with Travis Carter at Michigan, where he finished 31st. But in 2001, Larry Clement also wanted to make the move up to the Cup Series, driving in select events that season. In 2001, in the Cup Series, Larry Clement's 46 Ford did not make a single race. In the 3 attempts they did try to make in the fall at Charlotte, Martinsville, and Atlanta, they failed to qualify for any of them. Frank Kimmel did make his one and only Busch Series race of his career, driving for Highline Performance Group in their number 8 Chevy at Nashville, where he would finish in 11th. In the Truck Series, he would drive one singular race at Gateway, finishing 18th for Sontag Racing. Okay. And in 2001, Larry Clement fielded a variety of Chevys and Fords all season. It's going to be the first time since 1997 that Kimmel was driving multiple manufacturers that year. And again, he just did not disappoint. He was officially setting himself as the ARCA GOAT that season, as he would go on to have the most successful season of his career up to that point. In the 25 races, 10 wins, 21 top 5s, 22 top 10s, 11 poles, leading 1,474 laps, an average starting spot of 3.5, and an average finish of 4.3. This is absolute bonkers. Winning his 3rd championship and a back-to-back championship, 7,080 points scored that season. No one even hit 6,000. Second place in points, Jason Jarrett got a singular win at Kansas and ended the season with 5,900 points. Frank Kimmel won the 2001 ARCA Series Championship by over 1,000 points. That is absolutely insane. Also, to take note, he took a part in his first ever ARCA West Series race at Kansas that year, where he won. So I don't know. I think that might have been a race. Oh no, it wasn't. I was thinking it was going to be one of those combination races, but it wasn't. He actually just randomly drove in an ARCA West Series race that year, and he won. So yeah, Frank Kimmel officially might be the greatest driver in ARCA Series history at that time. What a season that was in 2001. After such a dominant 2001 season, people had finally started to maybe look down for some potential at some future top 3 series potential in NASCAR in 2002. At the age of 40, he was finally able to get a chance in the NASCAR Cup Series somewhat, getting a ride with Travis Carter, who at this point had formed a partnership with Gene Haas to drive a number 20 to field a number 26 Ford in 2002 part-time. And that season he would go on to actually qualify for all the races he tried to make. At Texas, he would qualify for the race and would finish 33rd. He would fail to finish at Martinsville the next race, finishing 40th, and would continue to stay alive at Talladega in that crazy race and would finish 35th. The team would opt out of California, but when they came back at Richmond, he would fail to finish and was classified 42nd before getting his career best finish of 26th coming in the Coca-Cola 600. A few races later, though, Larry Clement decided he wanted to dabble back in the Cup Series history by fielding his 46 car once again, and this time they would make the field unlike the previous year at Pocono, but unfortunately Kimmel was unable to finish and would finish in 43rd position. And then Atlanta, he tried making another race for Travis Carter, this time in their 66 car, where he failed to qualify actually. In 2002, he also made an ARCA West race at Kansas, but this time he failed to finish. How was he doing in ARCA now that he was dabbling in Cup in his age 40 season? Well, nothing really different compared to the previous year. Although it wasn't as dominant as 2001, it was still an amazing year. In 22 races, 10 wins, 18 top 5s, 19 top 10s, 6 poles, leading over 1,200 laps, and having an average finish of 5.5. Another championship for Frank Kimmel, the 4th of his career and the 3rd straight as he won the championship by 500 points over runner-up Chad Blount. What a year. Could this keep going? Is he beatable? Is he beatable now? Did once Frank Kimmel lost that 1999 championship, was he just absolutely overpowered? Because, like, what can stop this man? Nothing. Because in 2003, it was more of the same. As in fact, it took him all the way until race 14 that Frank Kimmel would not finish in the top 5 or 10 in 2003. Fifth, second, first, third, first, second, third. What oh my goodness gracious. Frank Kimmel would stomp to his another championship, the 5th of his career with ease in 2003 by scoring a grand total of 7 wins, 19 top 5s, 19 top 10s, 6 poles, 1,000 laps led, and an average finish of 5.4. Nothing could stop the duo of Frank Kimmel and Larry Clement. He was absolutely unbeatable, as once again he was able to beat Jason Jarrett for the championship, not by 1,000 points like in 2001, but by a good 700 points. Entering 2004, Frank Kimmel looked like the for sure candidate, the best contender to challenge for the most ARCA Series championships in series history. Entering 2004, Iggy Katona, who had driven in over 300 races in ARCA across the early 50s to the late 70s, had a grand total of 6 championships in 1955, 56, 57, 62, 66, and 67, and the all-time wins at 79. While Kimmel wasn't really close to the wins category at the very moment, too close, he had a for sure possibility at potentially catching him in championships. And in 2004, it looked like it was going to be possible. It looked like he was going to catch Katona. Although he wasn't as overpowered as he had been in across the last few seasons, he still had an amazing year. In 2004, he was able to snag 6 wins, 15 top 5s, 18 top 10s, score 5 poles. He had an absurd average starting spot of 2.8, but his average finish fell to 7.3, his worst since 2000, which was the year he won his second championship. He led 1,000 laps on the season, but it was also tied. It was basically statistically, it was his worst season since the 2000 season, which ironically he won the championship that year as well. Kimmel unfortunately ended the year on a slump, failing to finish the final 3 races after winning the previous 2 events. But that year, he also had some upside. After making a singular race in the Truck Series in 2003 in the season finale at Homestead, where he failed to finish, he would go on to drive part-time for Bob Keselowski in the Truck Series in 2004, making the first 2 races. And at Daytona, he would go on to have his best career Truck Series finish, coming in an 8th place finish, his first top 10 since Homestead 1996. The following race, unfortunately, Kimmel would finish 30th at Atlanta and would only go on to make one more race that season, coming at Charlotte, where he would finish a respectable 13th place. Kimmel's infrequent dabbles in the Truck Series, but still came across every so often, were routine by this point. Little did we know he would not go on to make a Truck Series race for a long time after that. And this basically proved that Frank Kimmel was here to stay in ARCA. And the question, was anyone able to take him and Larry Clement off the throne heading into 2005? In 2005, Frank Kimmel was looking to finally pass Iggy Katona for the most championships by defending his long championship win streak. But as it turned out the season before, if you did not notice, his inconsistency started to show a little bit, and he wasn't as dominant as he was in years past. Could anyone dethrone Frank Kimmel and Larry Clement? And early on in the season, it looked like somebody could. Kimmel would have a second at Daytona, 2 sevenths, and a win at Kentucky after the first 4 races, while rookie Joey Miller had a 7th, a second, a 6th, and a 3rd. And after the following race at Toledo, where Kimmel finished 2nd and Joey Miller finished in 8th, they went to a new track, Lanier National Speedway in Braselton, Georgia. Kimmel wouldn't lead a single lap at Lanier, but he would go on to finish in 4th after having a strong day, while rookie David Reagan went on to score his only ARCA win of his career. Kimmel would go on to find his stride, scoring 2 more wins across the next 3 races, but Joey Miller was right on his heels, and Joey Miller finally was able to score his first win that season come at Berlin. But unfortunately, even though he scored 4 on the season, after that first win at Berlin, Joey Miller went into a free fall and did not catch Kimmel in the points, as Kimmel was able to make it count, scoring 5 more wins after Berlin, including a 3-race win streak. Kimmel would go on to even include in that 3-race win streak revenge against David Reagan at Toledo.
The green and white around, here we go. It's a 1-lap shootout. Reagan can't catch Kimmel off the line. Can he run him deep into 3? He's on his backside. Not close enough. Coming off a turn 4. Reagan still tries to get inside. Oh, he looks to the bottom. Can't get there, and Frank Kimmel gets the win.
As he was able to score 6,000 points and surpass Iggy Katona for the most championships in ARCA Series history, as this was his 7th overall and his 6th in a row. 8 wins, 16 top 5s, 20 top 10s, a pole, 669 laps led was the least amount he had led since 1999, which was the year he actually lost the championship. This was the most top 10s he's had since 2001, which was his overpowered season. He also finished over 3,000 laps. The only other season that he finished over 3,000 laps was 2001. And he had an average finish of 6.0. It was a pretty respectable season, but if he did not turn it on and Joey Miller didn't become inconsistent, who knows? Could Miller have caught him up for the championship? Because the final tally in the end was under 500 points, which is, of course, it's a giant gap. But Across the first half of the season, Miller was right on his heels. And entering 2006, in his age 44 season, the pressure was on Frank Kimmel to keep the streak alive. And the following year in 2006, it looked like someone could finally have a chance at catching him. Bobby Gerhart was a driver that had been running part time in the ARCA series for a majority of his career, only running full time on a few occasions in 1991, 99, 2000. And entering 2006, he was going to be running full time for the first time since 2000. And that season, he had only had 3 wins. Sorry, 4 wins. Three of them coming in the season opening race at Daytona, which he would actually win again in 2006. Kimmel would be slowly consistent, but not as consistent as years past. He would finish 25th at Salem, 28th at Kentucky, 16th at Pocono, and 19th at Michigan. This is all in the first 8 races, mind you. This is not Frank Kimmel numbers we are used to. He had a win at Winchester early on, but this was not the dominance. Would Frank Kimmel finally lose the streak? He would go on to get a win at Kansas, and he would go on to get 2 more second places after that, and then a win at Pocono, while Gerhart would struggle to get top fives. Gerhart tried to close in, but 2 DNFs later in the season did him in, and by Kimmel winning at Talladega, he was able to basically lock up the championship as he did not finish the season opening race and the season finale at Iowa. But this was a scare for Frank Kimmel. He's scored 4 wins, the least amount of wins he had ever had in a championship season. 13 top fives, 15 top tens a pole, only 500 laps led, and he had an average finish of 10.4. That is the worst average finish he had had in a single season since 1995. That is insane. 2007 was coming, and people smelled blood in the water. Can anyone catch Frank Kimmel? And in 2007, it looked like someone could because, again, people smelled blood in the water. Kimmel was not at the highest level that he was maybe 5 or 4 years ago. And 2007, again, it was a slow start for Frank Kimmel as he would go on to only finish in the top 10 in 5 of the first 8 races. That is pretty bad. And the races he did not get, he wasn't even close to a top 10, 12th, 15th, and 22nd. He would go on to get his first win of the season at Iowa. But luckily for Kimmel, not a lot of full-timers won in 2007. His main competitor, Michael McDowell, was extremely inconsistent, but he was extremely strong. If Kimmel was struggling, McDowell could easily pounce, as he was able to do that, scoring his 2 wins at Kentucky and Pocono to get his first wins to close in on Kimmel's point lead. And Kimmel failed to finish at Pocono, finishing in 25th. But in Frank Kimmel style, he was able to lock in, winning 2 more races in a row to try to hold the points lead, while McDowell was inconsistent, failing to finish at DeQuoin and at Talladega, even though he ended up winning at Chicagoland and the season finale at Toledo. It was not enough for Frank Kimmel as he was able to limp out the season with multiple top 10s and a lot of top 5s and win his 9th championship, his 8th consecutive. But again, his stats were dipping. Although his average finish improved drastically over his 2006 season, he would finish with a 7.7 average finish in 2007. He had the most laps he had ever completed on his career at just under 3,300, but he led 260 laps, the lowest amount he's led since 1997. He had 3 wins, 11 top 5s, and 17 top 10s. And for the first time since 1995, he had 0 poles. That is insane. Frank Kimmel, at age 45, winning his 9th championship, decided that, that maybe it's time for something different. He attempted his only Daytona 500 that year for Fast Track Racing Enterprises, where he failed to qualify. Also, another thing to note, after 2007, Frank Kimmel had a career that he could love. Why do I say that? Well, after 2006, even though he had a horrid season, he had such a great resume there that he got a seat in IROC. Even though this was like the final season of IROC, and it wasn't really a top tier IROC, it wasn't the peak. In those 4 races in IROC 30, he had a best finish of 3rd at Daytona, and then finished 8th or 7th in the following races, where he would finish 7th overall. But after 2007, seeing his regression slowly, even though he was continuing to win championships, Frank Kimmel and Larry Clement would part ways following the 2007 season, entering arguably what is the greatest partnership in the history of ARCA and possibly NASCAR. In those 10 seasons, Frank Kimmel won 9 championships and finished second in the other one. And the amount of wins they got, oh my goodness gracious, he got so many wins. He got a grand total of 67 wins driving for Larry Clement in their 46 car. But he was done. He wanted to move on. And what was he going to do come the following season? What was going to happen to the streak? In 2008, Frank Kimmel would announce that he was going to field his own team full time for the 2008 season, Kimmel Racing, to field a number 44 Ford for the entire year. He would field a Dodge in the very first race, though. He would finish fifth in the season opening race at Daytona. And basically, he would get top fives across the next two races after that, and all the pressure was on Kimmel, was on the 46-year-old Frank Kimmel to keep the streak alive. Could he keep it going, or would ARCA see a new champion for the first time since 1999? And 2008, as we know, was one of the most competitive ARCA seasons in series history. Justin Allgaier, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Scott Speed were among some of the biggest contenders that year. And this would be the latest Frank Kimmel would go without getting a win. As although he scored multiple top fives early on in the season, he failed to score another top five until Michigan. That's a 5-race streak of finishing 10th or worse. He would go on to have a 4-race top 5 streak to close in on the championship fight before suffering a concussion in a crash at Pocono, which left people wondering, but luckily it didn't seem to hinder him. And he would go on to have to wait until race number 15, race 15 on the Illinois State Grounds Fairgrounds Fair Racetrack, before he was able to get his first win of 2008. He would go on to win the following race and would win 2 races later at Salem to close in on the points lead to try to keep his championship streak alive. But Kimmel was slowing down as Scott Speed, Michael McDowell's replacement from the year before, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Justin Allgaier were firing on all cylinders. And it looked like Frank Kimmel's chances at another championship were coming to an end. He just needed to have good finishes in the following 2 races to have a good chance at battling for the title in Toledo. Unfortunately, that isn't what happened. Finishes of 10th and 6th were just not enough, especially with Justin Allgaier winning at Talladega. Kimmel would have a long gap if he wanted to win the championship at Toledo. Luckily for him, that race, we all know that as the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Scott Speed race, where they took each other out multiple occasions. Those were the 2 favorites heading into that season finale, and now that they took each other out, they were, well, out of the championship fight.
It's just ARCA, that's how it is.
Well said, Scott. Well said. Leaving Frank Kimmel to have to duke it out with Justin Allgaier to try to keep his championship streak alive. Kimmel would stay in the top 5 for a majority of the race, but would unfortunately cut a tire. He could not dodge all the ARCA chaos. He was able to claw his way back, but Matt Carter, his replacement at Clement Racing, who had gotten a win in the first race at Toledo, looked like he was going to win. But Allgaier would lock in, get around him, and was able to get his 3rd straight win and 6th on the season to do what hadn't been done in basically 10 years. Dethrone Frank Kimmel.
1 lap to go on the 2008 season.
Justin's got 3 or 4 car lengths right now over Matt Carter. We just need for this race to stay green for Justin.
Justin Allgaier working his way through 3 and 4. Here he comes out of 4. Your 2008 champion, Allgaier, will win the race, his 6th of the season.
The 2008 season went for Frank Kimmel: 3 wins, 11 top 5s, 14 top 10s, a pole, 333 laps led, over 3,000 laps completed. He had an average finish of 9th and had an average starting spot of 14th, which was his worst career average starting spot since 1992, which was his rookie season in ARCA. And across the following 3 seasons, unfortunately, it fell off for Frank Kimmel. He would go winless across all those seasons and never made a really big stab at the championship. His consistency was strong, but it just wasn't up to par compared to the champions of this era. Justin Lofton won the '09 championship, Patrick Sheltra in 2010, and Ty Dillon, who won the 2011 championship on 7 wins. Kimmel had decent seasons. 8 top 5s, 14 top 10s, average finish of 8th in 2009, 7 top 5s, 14 top 10s, a pole 8.8 in 2010, 3 top 5s and 17 top 10s, and an average finish of 8th in 2011 was really the bad sign. But toward the end of 2011, he was not really satisfied with his owner-driver effort, only scoring the 3 wins he scored in 2008 and wasn't really a front-running contender for wins in any other season, and finished third, fourth, and third in the championship those years. And heading into 2011, the end of 2011, he got an offer for from a new team that could move him to another operation for the following year, and they decided to give him an opportunity in the Truck Series at Homestead, where he unfortunately failed to qualify. This was Thor Sport Racing, who offered him a full contract for the 2012 ARCA season to drive their 44 car, the Toyota, full time. They had only made they had not made a single ARCA race in their careers as a team entering 2012, but they saw Kimmel and how he was performing and thought he would be the perfect man to lead the operation. It was going to be Kimmel's first time driving a Toyota full time or at all. He hadn't driven a Toyota in any other season because they basically did not exist in American stock car racing at this point. But in 2012, he was moving to Thor Sport Racing full time. By the way, check out that Thor Sport video I made because it is absolutely goated. The 2012 season would go on to be a season of learning how to drive a Toyota for Frank Kimmel. Finishing 23rd at Daytona wasn't really strong, and then finishing 17th at Mobile put them in a hole just 2 races into the season, and people were wondering what Duke and Rhonda Thorson were really doing up there hiring Mr. Kimmel. But he was able to claw back, finishing 2nd at Salem, 7th at Talladega, 2nd at Toledo, and 4th at Elko. But it looked like routine numbers from him after seeing how he had done in the last 3 seasons for his own team. He just couldn't snag the wins, while drivers were continuously getting multiple wins. But luckily for him, he was actually close to the championship fight. The championship points leader at this time was Chris Buescher, who was driving for Rouleau Brothers Racing. And Kimmel was really strong. He was keeping up with Buescher, and although he didn't have wins to keep up with him, he was able to battle for the championship points lead that season. Across the year, Kimmel would gradually get better and better, and when they came to IRP, Kimmel was finally able to notch the win, his first win since Salem 2008, and he would go on to get that in the middle of a top 5 streak, which was 6 races long, and at the end of that streak, he scored another win at the Illinois State Fairgrounds. Toward the end of the year, he was so close to battling for Chris Buescher for the championship, and of course, he would go on to battle as hard as he can. But finishes of 9th at Madison and 4th at Salem were just not enough to get him into a good enough striking position heading into the season finale at Kansas. They canceled the race at DuQuoin that year. Buescher had won the race at Madison and finished 2nd at Salem, and at Kansas, all he needed to do was just exist that race, and he would win the championship. Kimmel tried as hard as he could, even outplacing Buescher 6th to 8th, but it wasn't enough for Kimmel that year, as he finished 75 points out of the championship in what was his best season since 2008. 2 wins, 10 top 5s, 16 top 10s, 290 laps led, and he had an average finish of 6.4. Even though it was like less than 300 laps led, that was the most he had since 2008. In 2009, he didn't even lead 100. In 2010, he barely led 100, and in 2011, he barely led over 150. But in 2013, the positivity out of Thor Sport after that good 2012 season was evident. And in 2013, Was their chance to make their mark on the ARCA series? Could Frank Kimmel finally lock in because he was 4 wins away from passing Iggy Katona for the most wins in ARCA history? The 2013 ARCA series season. This is a very interesting one to look at. Frank Kimmel started off the season in the first few races, 2 top 5s, a sixth at Salem, and he would go on to get his first win that season at Talladega, which I'm pretty sure is his first win on a super speedway, if I'm not mistaken. I could correct myself, but I don't know. Rookie Mason Mingus was his biggest challenger in this time span, scoring multiple top 5s and 10s to try to keep up with Kimmel, but Kimmel was so consistent. After finishing third at Toledo, he would go on to get another strong win at Elko by leading the most laps and was just 2 wins away from trying to pass Iggy Katona for that all-time wins accomplishment. Kimmel was strong the following 2 races at Pocono and Michigan, while Mingus struggled to keep up, only finishing in the top 10. That's only in the top 10. At Road America, Kimmel was able to dodge the craziness and finish in 7th. And at Winchester, after getting the pole, he would lead the most laps, have the dominant car on the day, and would go on to win that race. His 79th win of his career tied him with Iggy Katona for the most wins in ARCA history.
Who has been the winner of this race the last 2 years with Dakota Armstrong and Alex Bowman. Now it's up to Frank Kimmel to record a historic win here at Winchester.
The 22 of Self much better in 3. He gets there, but Kimmel closes the door, and Frank Kimmel will do it. Kimmel wins his 3rd of the season, this time at Winchester Speedway. 6th career win here. He adds to his championship lead, and he ties Iggy Katona as the winningest driver in ARCA Racing Series history. A great run for the Indiana veteran.
Frank Kimmel has won here at Winchester Speedway, chasing history. They had to beat you to the line, and no one seemed to have the match. Frank, talk about how huge this win is here in your home state.
Well, it is huge, and what a great race car Jared and Rich and all the guys gave me. And right from the go, we just took off, and I was running it easy and was able to get away from them. So I was just really happy with the car, and thanks to Anselm and Arch for sticking behind me. And to get this milestone's pretty big, and Duke and Rhonda Thorson and their family and Allison are all here. So really happy they were able to come here and get this and be a part of this deal. So it's pretty cool.
Tying history is now accomplished. You've tied Iggy Katona, 79 career wins, tying the all-time record here in the series. What does that mean to you?
It means we got one more to go. What a thrill it is to be even mentioned with Iggy Katona. He's definitely our guy in ARCA. So to be there and be this close and to tie him, it's a pretty special day for me and my entire family. It's a pretty neat deal.
You can tell the emotions there, guys. And Frank Kimmel on the Chasing the History is also chasing the 10th championship. Kimmel celebrates here in Victory Lane at Winchester.
While Mason Mingus finished in 12th for his first race outside the top 10. Kimmel would continue to get consistent top 10s for the remainder of the year. 9th at Chicagoland, 5th at New Jersey Motorsports Park, 2nd at Pocono, 3rd at Berlin, 4th at Illinois State Fairgrounds. He was just slapping it on the competition. No one could keep up with Mr. Kimmel. He was absolutely on rails this season. Could he keep going? 3rd at Madison, 7th at DuQuoin, and 10th at Iowa. Mingus was struggling to keep up as he had a few top 16 runs. He finished 16th at Illinois State and 12th at DuQuoin. He just couldn't keep up. Mingus was the leading rookie right now, but Justin Boston was another rookie looking to challenge him, but Boston couldn't keep up because he had 2 DNFs early on in the season. It was Mason Mingus versus Frank Kimmel. Who was going to win the championship in the final 3 races? Could Kimmel finally win again? He hadn't won since Winchester, and that win could be number 80 on the season, and number 80 of his career, and pass Iggy Katona to make Kimmel the absolute GOAT. At Salem, Kimmel would run strong again and finish in 3rd, while Mingus would finish in 9th. At Kentucky, Frank Kimmel would finish in 9th, while Mingus would finish 10th. And with that, Frank Kimmel was able to lock up his 10th championship in his career. His first championship since 2007 was locked up a race early. And at Kansas, all he wanted to do was get to win number 80. Heading into Kansas, which was at the time called the Kansas Lottery 98.9 or something like that, really strange name. Kimmel just needed to keep going. He just won a championship at age 51. He started in fourth that race and did not really run in the top for the early portions of the event. The race was mainly focused on Corey LaJoie, who emerged as a superstar, winning multiple races in part-time effort that year, and Scott Lagasse Jr., who in a one-off race for Cunningham had gotten the pole, I think, and was running in the lead for majority of the early portion, and those two were battling fiercely. But everything changed when they decided that racing aggressively was what they were going to do.
Asked him, can you rank, as Corey LaJoie moves to the inside, trying to take that lead away from Scott Lagasse Jr. Not able to do it there, but I asked Billy Venturini, I said, how would you... Oh, and around goes the 22 and the 17 also into the wall. The 55 gets by. That'll bring out our first caution.
It looked like Corey got in the back of the 22 of Scott Lagasse.
The two battling for the lead. They get into the wall. Dylan Kwasniewski gets by.
Corey went down so low to try to get by that lap car, as well as Scott Lagasse. He had a bad angle into the corner, so his car wanted to go straight. He got into the back of Scott Lagasse.
Eventually, after they cleaned up that wreck, the pit cycle would eventually happen, and Kimmel would find himself sitting close to the catbird seat. He would go on to take the lead and hold it, but it looked like there was rain coming in the forecast. But we know the ARCA rules, remember? You gotta finish under green flag conditions. The race was supposed to be a 100-lap event, but with rain coming toward the halfway point, they decided that they were going to make the race shorter. They decided that they were going to end the race on lap 65. And Frank Kimmel was out in front looking for that elusive 80th career win, and all he had behind it to deal with was dealing with Mason Mitchell, and it didn't look like he was going to catch him. And as they came to the final laps, Frank Kimmel, who had already clinched his 10th championship, was about to do it. He was about to make history, to cement himself as the GOAT of ARCA. He was going to do it. All he had to do was lead just a few more times and hold off Mason Mitchell.
Spencer Gallagher, white flag has gone in the air. One more time around for the 44 of Frank Kimmel. The side-by-side battle continues for fifth as Kimmel works his way down the backstretch. Kimmel enters turn number 3. The final turn as he comes out of turn number 4 with his 10th championship in his pocket. This is the historic 80th win for Frank Kimmel.
Outstanding job by Mason Mitchell to finish second for the second consecutive race. John West Townley from the back finishes third.
That fight for the Rookie of the Year is going to go to Justin Boston. He will have the most points.
Great season for Justin Boston, as well as Mason Mingus. But how about that guy right there driving that Ansel Menard's Toyota, Frank Kimmel?
In the days leading up to the race, as a television production crew, we talk about what happens if he wins the race and the championship. We're going to find out right after this commercial break. He did it. Frank Kimmel wins at Kansas.
80 ARCA wins. 80 wins. That is something incomprehensible. Now, drivers come and go in ARCA. There's no drivers that really stay in the series, that keep themselves, that are content driving with such low purse money. We know ARCA doesn't even give out any cash, but Frank Kimmel was content doing that. 80 wins from 1990 all the way to 2013, and 10 championships, including 8 in a row from 2000 to 2007. What an amazing driver. This guy needs to be put in the Hall of Fame stat. That year, he would also get opportunities to drive for ThorSport in their 13 truck in a few races. He would race at Iowa. That was his first race. That race at Iowa was his first race since Charlotte 2004 in the truck series. He would finish 21st that race and would come back for Homestead, where he would finish in 24th for his final start in the truck series. And there it is. He didn't have to do it anymore. He brought ThorSport an ARCA championship, the 10th of his career. What an amazing season. Frank Kimmel just had the best season of his career. Is it better than 2001? Who remembers 2001? 10 wins, 21 top fives, 22 top 10s in 25 races, 11 poles, and he had an average finish of 4.3. Let's compare this to 2013, where, by the way, keep in mind, he is 12 years older in 2013. In 21 races, he had 4 wins, 15 top 5s, 21 top 10s in those 21 races. He led 483 laps and had an average finish of 4.3, the same exact one as 2001. Which season was better for Frank Kimmel, 2001 or 2013? What do you value more, wins or consistency? In 2001, he missed top 10s in 3 races. In 2013, he got the top 10 in every single race, 12 years older. This is a one for you to decide. I think this season, 2013, was better. He was 51, finishing in the top 10 in every race and getting an average finish of 4.3. What a year.
All of the races on the schedule in the top 10. Frank Kimmel at 469.
And this is the trophy that sets the mark in ARCA history. 80th victory here at Kansas Speedway. All time ever, Frank. You came on the radio and said, guys, I don't know how to thank you. What are your thoughts right now in victory lane after winning your 80th ARCA race?
Exactly what I said. I just don't know what to say. You know, they worked their ass off for me. Great race cars. Duke Thorson, Duke's here, and couldn't do without him. Couldn't do without Ansel Menards. And to come out here with 80 wins and the championship, just an absolute perfect season.
We've got one more trophy. Give me that one, because ARCA President Ron Dreger is walking in with the Champions Trophy, celebrating Frank's unprecedented 10th championship. Frank Kimmel and Ron Dreger sharing a moment here that will go down in history. Kimmel, 10-time champion with 80 wins, all-time leader here in the ARCA Racing Series, presented by Menards.
Look at the point standings. Frank Kimmel, a dominant 2013 season. His 10th championship puts him in the same category as the Montreal Canadiens, the New York Yankees, Boston Celtics, all teams that have won over 10 championships, and now Kimmel put his name in that list. What the hell?
After the year, his contract with ThorSport would run out, and ThorSport would mainly focus on the truck series after that year, never fielding an ARCA after that as of this upload. But in 2014, he already done everything he needed to prove. He moved to Wintron Racing for 2014, retaining the number 44 and his sponsorship from Menards. And the season, we all knew that was it. 2013 was the peak. In 2014, he would keep his consistency going, scoring 3 straight top 5s to start off the year, then an 8th at Talladega. 14th at Toledo was the first time he had finished outside the top 10 since Winchester 2012. But in 2014, he wasn't as strong performing compared to the previous year, and it looked like he was not going to defend this championship at all, as Mason Mitchell, who he beat to win at Kansas the previous year, was on rails that year, scoring 1 win and the championship by a pretty almost 300 points. Kimmel did not get a win, his first winless season since 2011, but he had a good season. It was basically like a farewell tour. In the 20 races that year, he had 8 top 5s, 14 top 10s, and an average finish of 8.9, and led a grand total of 1 singular lap on the whole season. And after 2014, he would announce his full-time retirement from the series after an illustrious career that spanned nearly 25 years, that saw him win 80 ARCA races, 10 championships, and an ARCA West win in 2001. And after that, decided that he was going to drive part-time. And in 2015, he would sign a deal with an illustrious team. In 2015, Frank Kimmel became a part-time driver for the first time since 1996. And that year, Kimmel was a normal name in ARCA. Frank Kimmel, of course, was the GOAT. His son, Frank II, Frankie, raced in select races from 2010 all the way to 2017, scoring 3 top 10 finishes, all coming at Salem, with his best finish being 7th in both 2011 and 2012. While his nephew Will has been racing there since 2008 and continues to run there to this day. He hasn't run a full season where he made all the races since the 2013 season, which was his best season statistically. But Frank Kimmel decided that he was going to drive for Venturini Motorsports, basically the best team in ARCA since Larry Clement's team had dissolved in 2009. And he would make multiple starts for them in their 25 and 15 team. Early on, Frank Kimmel would finish 5th at Daytona, then 14th at Talladega, and 11th in the following races at Toledo and 11th and Pocono. At Michigan, he would go on to get the pole, which was his final career pole and his first pole since Kentucky 2013, but he was just short of getting another win, finishing second, and then followed it up with another top 5 run at Chicagoland. He would wait off 3 races before making 5 more on the season, where he would go on to actually get the pole at Pocono. So forget that Michigan was not his final pole. Pocono was his final pole, but he finished 15th. His final chance at possibly getting a win would come in the following race at Berlin, where he would finish in 3rd after having a strong race, and he would only score 1 top 10 over the following 3 races, where he would finish 13th in points with 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s in 11 races made. He led 43 laps and had an average finish of 9.9, but Kimmel's career was nearing an end. At age 54 in 2016, Frank Kimmel was making select races. People knew that it was his time. Father Time had caught up, even though Kimmel was amazing. He would sign a one-off deal with Team Stange Racing to drive in their number 46 Ford as a throwback, 46, to when he won all his championships with Larry Clement across the 2000s and in 1998. Kimmel would go on to have a strong race at Daytona where he would finish in 5th for his final top 10 of his career. And people thought that was the last start of his career. Well, it turns out he was going to make one more. Coming at Salem late in the season, he would sign a one-off deal with Cunningham Motorsports to drive their number 22 Ford in one race. Salem was one of his favorite tracks. He wanted to say one more goodbye to that track, where he would go on to have a respectable race, finishing in 13th position. And then that was it. His career was over. Across 27 years of competition that saw him compete in 503 ARCA races, he scored a grand total of 80 wins, 273 top 5s, 374 top 10s, 44 poles, led over 11,000 laps, and had an average finish across his career of 8.2. That is absolutely absurd. He competed in 14 truck races across 1995 to 2013, scoring 2 top 10s with a best finish of 8th at Daytona in 2004. He made 1 singular O'Reilly Auto Parts Series start, man, that's weird to say, and made 7 Cup starts, where he had a best finish of 26th, and in that O'Reilly race he finished 11th. He even made IROC. He made the final year of IROC at age 44. Although his 2006 ARCA season wasn't that great, his accomplishments awarded him a seat there, where he got a top 5 and 4 top 10s in those races and finished 7th in points with an average finish of 6.5. What a career this man had. And don't forget his ARCA West win at Kansas in 2001, and he only made 2 starts in that entire series. Frank Kimmel had an amazing career. He chose to stay content in this low division. In this division, this regional division, where purse money is relatively low. And prospects came and went. Frank Kimmel was there through all of it. He was there through multiple decades of racing and could tell you numerous stories. This is a guy that needs to be in the Hall of Fame. A 10-time champion. That is insane. Along with Mike Stefanik, he is the only driver to win more than 7 championships across the NASCAR divisions. Although Kimmel did win all his championships before NASCAR officially acquired ARCA in 2018, this is a guy that needs to be in Hall of Fame consideration. Come on, this guy has 80 wins, 10 championships, including 8 in a row from 2000 to 2007. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this guy's Hall of Fame worthy? Because I think he is. He stayed content in the bottom, made the most of it, and got all of it and ended up becoming a name of recognition that we all know ourselves. What a career. What does Frank Kimmel do now? Well, since leaving ARCA in 2016, he became a crew chief and driving coach for Venturini for 3 years for drivers such as Haley Deegan and Leilani Munter. Of course, we know these drivers are not in NASCAR anymore. And now Kimmel, at age 63, currently serves as the crew chief for Jason Kitzmiller at his CR7 Motorsports. Kitzmiller drives full-time in ARCA and just finished third in points in 2025 with a best finish of third at Daytona. So Kimmel's staying in the racing scene. But nobody will forget how overpowered he was in ARCA, winning 10 championships in 1998, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2013, along with the most wins in series history at 80. I hope you guys like this video. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
This year for Frank Kimmel, he's the 2000 ARCA champion. And the defending ARCA Series champion makes it 4 wins in a row. Kimmel picks up his 27th career ARCA victory. Pretty much rewriting the ARCA record book right now. Frank Kimmel is going to win this race.
That's win number 5 out of 6 in the dirt track world. He's the king for sure.
An extremely big night for Frank Kimmel.
Unbelievable, really, that we won this race.
I'm sure Frank Kimmel's loving life right now.
Frank Kimmel wanting to leave his mark here at Talladega.
First ever restrictor plate victory.
Well, tremendous victory for that team.
As Frank Kimmel begins his celebration, it will be win number 75 for Frank Kimmel.
Obviously, that 44 car was the car to beat at the end of the race.
Kimmel gets his 77th career win.
The veteran Frank Kimmel, 79th career victory, tying Iggy Katona all-time in the ARCA Racing Series for wins.
And tonight, it was the record-breaking win. Number 80 for Frank Kimmel as he crosses the start-finish line in a rain-shortened race with his 10th championship already in hand. Now he's able to celebrate that record-breaking win.